The U.S. is entering into uncharted waters as the proposed peace talks between Trump and Kim Jong-un approach. The summit and the prospect of an official end to hostilities on the Korean peninsula after nearly 70 years of conflict are the culmination of the DPRK's nuclear and missile programs. Without North Korea's provocative actions, there would have been no incentive for a change in the decades-long stalemate, which gives the U.S. a rationale for maintaining its military presence in East Asia. Kim Jong-un, while leader of the DPRK, does not operate in a vacuum. He represents the will of the North Korean nation and its people. Thus, it is the policy of the DPRK, not Kim Jong-un alone, that has kick-started the peace process. By creating a credible nuclear deterrent to U.S. imperialism's attempt to isolate and intimidate the North, Kim's brinkmanship has matched Trump's and forced the issue of U.S. aggression on the Korean peninsula. The dramatic turnabout in relations between the North and South was initiated by the DPRK with its overtures to the South, participation in the Winter Games at Pyeongchang, invitation to Trump for face-to-face negotiations, meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping in Beijing, and the summit between Marshal Kim and President Moon. These initiatives place the U.S. in an untenable position. Trump's previous positions calling for a drawdown in the U.S. troop presence in South Korea and denuclearization of the Korean peninsula made it next to impossible for the U.S. not to respond positively to Kim's pledge to abandon its nuclear program in exchange for a peace treaty and guarantees of the DPRK's sovereignty and non-interference in its internal affairs. Kim's visit to Beijing reinforced the North's negotiating position by providing China's backing for the peace process. The question of the status of U.S. troops in the South following a peace treaty thus takes center stage. There are many forces in the U.S., both in Congress and the so-called deep state, that want to scuttle the peace process. National Security Advisor Bolton among them. Their intransigence in refusing to even discuss troop withdrawals are meant to put a damper on the peace process by presenting the North with a non-negotiable demand that on first glance would make negotiating a peace treaty a non-starter. But Kim has already preempted that ploy by stating that the continued deployment of U.S. forces in the South is not an impediment to signing a peace accord. This gives Trump, who desperately needs a victory in order to bolster his presidential bona fides, the opportunity to successfully conclude a peace treaty with all concerned parties. The pressure would then be on for eventual U.S. troop withdrawals. Hardliners within the Trump administration want to prevent that outcome at all costs, but Trump's personal agenda may prevent them from doing so. The question will Trump's chaotic campaign to denuclearize the Korean peninsula succeed, or will the bipartisan Washington War Party regain the upper hand? The ball is in Washington's court, but the U.S. team seems to be divided between its star player and the coaching staff. The opposing team in Pyongyang now has a deep bench with both South Korea and China waiting in the wings to support Kim's position. The outcome will determine whether peace or continued conflict reigns in East Asia for the foreseeable future.